to our meeting of the Climate Justice Working Group. If you could move to the next slide. So for the meeting procedures, as everyone can see, the goal is to reduce noise and background noise. So meeting groups are going to be muted. Working group members, if you could please raise your hand to indicate that you want to speak. We will work on making sure that we have name placards for you for future meetings. So you can simply turn your placard vertically when you want to speak. And always state your name before you start speaking so we have a good record for the transcript. Next slide. So with that, I will start our roll call. We'll start with myself, Alana Cadell-Tucky. I'm here. Chris Cole.
Present.
Neil.
Here.
Joe is not here, but we do have an alternate here.
I'm Elizabeth Furr.
Looking online, we have Jill.
Present.
Do we have Abby? Are you present in our Region 8 office?
I'm here.
I heard I'm here.
It is true. I am.
Oh, there you are. Thank you. Sonal, is Sonal available in Region 2?
No one has arrived yet.
No, Sonal hasn't gotten here? Okay. And I do not believe we have Mary Beth. I don't believe Mary Beth was available because we do not have Utica. And I know that Rawa is going to be out of town, as well as Donovan and Elizabeth. So unfortunately, I do not believe we have a physical quorum available, so we will not be able to take up our minutes or do any voting at this meeting, but we can still have a discussion. I believe it cannot officially be called a meeting, but we can still go on with our presentations. As of right now, if there are any Climate Justice Working Group members that are attending virtually, if you could please raise your hands and we can have you elevated to panelists. I believe Eddie Batista might be attending virtually.
I'm here, thank you.
Yep, there's Eddie. If any of our other Climate Justice Working Group members are attending virtually, we can have you elevated. Just send a message or to me or raise your hand as an attendee. Do we have anyone else?
I don't see anyone else. We had a few people who raised their hand but then quickly retracted, so it might have been a mistake, but I will keep my eye on it.
All right, thank you. All right, so we will get started. Next slide, please. We're going to have to, we'll talk about the agenda. Obviously, we will not be voting on the minutes because we do not have a quorum present, but we will review the next steps from our last meeting, discuss the revised timeline, review and discuss the comment matrix, and discuss our next steps. Next slide. Obviously skip the minutes. And we'll talk about reviewing the next steps that we discussed. Next slide, please. So in our last meeting, we discussed what our future meetings would look like. We sent out a survey to get an idea of everybody's availability, and we have scheduled the next meetings for the rest of 2022. Those will be November 30th, December 7th, and December 14th from 3 to 4:30. We will make sure that we have adequate notice for folks so that they can attend, and those meetings will have the same locations that are available for this meeting. Additionally, we do want to offer, since we are going to be moving very quickly, we are going to still offer smaller one-on-one sessions with our contractors. And Loom, who are also there, Alex, Balloon, hi. Didn't mean to ignore you.
Of course.
We will be offering one-to-one sessions to discuss common analysis, what we're seeing. There is a potential to break into smaller groups, but we can discuss that further when we have more folks available. If you want to reach out to me after we've discussed the comment matrix, to discuss the possibility of subgroups on any one of the specific topics that have come up, or things that you have been seeing or hearing from your groups, please let me know. Next slide. With regards to air monitoring, we discussed the Climate Justice Working Group members. We are in the process of setting up meetings with working group members to get trained up on Acclima Pro. We just received Acclima's availability. You should be getting a doodle poll from our air team shortly. If you could please respond quickly, that would be great, and we can make sure that you or your designee from your organization have that access as soon as possible. Next slide. And lastly, the economy-wide and clean transportation standard. We recently had a meeting with the Climate Justice Working Group and Climate Action Council staff, and also subgroup members, to discuss the economy-wide policy on November 3rd for those who attended. There is an additional meeting to continue the discussion, as well as discuss the clean transportation standard that's going to be held tomorrow. And so folks, you should have that invitation in your mailbox to attend. All right, next slide. And now we're just to quickly go over the work plan and the timeline. I did work on the timeline a bit, since that seemed to be a problem. And we did, through the survey, we did discuss that there was an overwhelming vote for folks to vote on the finalized disadvantaged communities criteria in February. We don't have an exact date at this time. If you can, next slide, please. So I reworked the timeline where we will have probably several meetings within those areas in order to get to that goal. Obviously, we're going to, again, work on reviewing and analyzing comments. We'll have about two meetings definitely this month, 2 in December, to consider these actionable elements. Once we move to 2023, in a couple of weeks, I will send out a new survey to get an idea of when folks would like to meet and what times work best. I'm sure it'll be hopefully very similar to what we have now. And the goal will be to have 2 to 3 meetings in January to determine the potential changes, and most likely 3 meetings in February to discuss and come to consensus, and then a final vote on the criteria. We will be throughout reviewing and updating the report, and hopefully we'll have the finalized criteria released for everyone in March. So does anybody have any questions or comments on the revised timeline?
I have a question.
Sure.
Does it impact this timeline that we don't have a quorum today?
No, that doesn't impact the timeline. It would impact our ability to vote on any minutes, and if we don't have a quorum, obviously, for the final vote, we would not be able to vote. But it doesn't impact our ability to actually have a conversation and move on. So I will send this around at the end of our meeting to working group members, and if everybody is fine with what we're seeing, we'll start to press forward with this schedule. Yes.
So Chris Cole from NYSERDA. So I think one of the things that we'll talk a little bit more about later in this meeting is just, the review of the comments, just given, 3,000 comments. And I don't think we're completely clear yet in terms of the level of analysis that might be needed, to kind of, go through and make sure that, where the working group is comfortable with kind of adopting kind of any of the comments, frankly. So I think the only flag here for the timeline would to, maybe call this like a tentative timeline.
Yes.
Kind of with kind of our ability to kind of like reassess over the next couple of meetings. So once we get the rest of the working group members, into this discussion, we'll probably have a better sense for like how long, it might actually take to kind of get people comfortable with the options.
Yep, absolutely. It's Sonal Hi, Sonal.
Hi, I'm
And
here.
with, hi, and with Sonal present, we actually do have a physical quorum. So if we could just jump back to the minutes vote. So we sent around the minutes for April 2022 and our previous meeting. Does anybody have any comments or questions on those minutes?
Yeah, just that Joe was physically here and not virtually, so.
Okay. Yep, we can make that change. I will have Saren, who should be listening in, to make that adjustment to the minutes that Joe was physically present, and we did have a visible quorum at the last meeting. Are there any other changes or comments?
I just had a quick question.
Sure.
The last meeting that we actually had, or at least the conference call early November, and apologies if I don't, if I should remember this, was that considered an official climate justice working group meeting or not?
No, there wasn't a quorum, and it's, since we weren't discussing the disadvantaged communities criteria, it was not considered to be an official meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments before we vote on the minutes? Okay, so I move to approve the minutes.
Second that.
Second. All who approve the minutes, I will go through and ask. Jill?
Hi.
Sonal? Eddie?
Since I wasn't in the last meeting, I feel awkward approving minutes I wasn't at, but yay.
Okay. Abby? Myself, I. Chris, I. Neil?
Aye.
And,
Elizabeth, I.
okay, the ayes have it. The minutes are approved. They will be made available to the public on our Climate Justice Working Group website. You can always review them on our SharePoint page, and we will now jump forward to the air quality meeting. Sorry, that would be slide 8. Oh, a little bit, sorry. Never mind. Yep, sorry, I was wrong. We were forward that. Sorry, jumping back, with regards to the timeline, yep, as to what Chris said, that is considered a tentative voting date. If it looks like we're not where we should be, or we're not at consensus before then we can obviously push the date back, but that is, the goal will be to have that voting date set for February, and if we don't meet it, we can reassess. If it's looking maybe in January that we're not quite there, we can definitely have conversations throughout to reassess where we are and to see if we're comfortable still with that date. Okay, next slide, please. And we talked about that. Next slide. Oh, Abby, you have your hand up?
Sorry, Alana, quick question. So
Sure.
if we approve in February, what does that mean for timeline for program eligibility changing, reflect the definition, the criteria?
Well, our goal was to have that approved so that by the time we get to first quarter, agencies will be able to apply the disadvantaged communities criteria based on the updated maps and the updated, well, the definitions are the same, but on the criteria. So moving forward, when we're, with the benefits and investments framework, they can then start to move towards that 35 to 40%.
So if I'm understanding correctly, it goes into effect basically immediately after we approve it?
The goal is to have it go into effect immediately, to have agencies and entities start applying it immediately afterwards.
Okay, and I guess at some point, will we have, it would be helpful to have kind of clarity on what that means and what that looks like. And I apologize if I should already know that.
No, not at all.
Yeah. Abby, this is Chris from NYSERDA. So I guess one of the things that kind of, flag there is the agencies, authorities, and entities are required, by the law to ensure that, these communities are receiving at least 35% of the benefits of an investment. So there are probably going to be a number of different ways that agencies are going to be able to kind of demonstrate that. So some of them could be like, some of them could be creating programs or initiatives that are really targeted at DACs. Others might be kind of increasing the way or enhancing the way they do outreach and engagement in DACs to increase uptake of programs. So I don't know that we would, I think we should think about like the way we're framing kind of the eligibility criteria. I think the main thing is, we want to make sure agencies and authorities are able to kind of, ensure that their initiatives are being directed at disadvantaged communities, in accordance with the law. So there could be a number of different ways that they do that. And, speaking for NYSERDA, I think some folks have seen, we have some initiatives that we've started that are really kind of, carving out incentives for disadvantaged communities. So like that can be a practice that other agencies and authorities apply, but there are probably other things that they could be doing too to ensure that they're meeting the benefits requirements. So I know that last meeting we talked about sometime in December having kind of a regroup on the benefits, framework, the approach that the state could be taking to measure, track, and report out on the benefits and investments going to disadvantaged communities. So perhaps that's also a good time to kind of have a conversation about what it could mean in terms of how agencies are applying the criteria.
That would be helpful. Thanks, Chris.
Yep.
Are there any other questions? Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so now I'm going to throw it to Alex to discuss the disadvantaged communities criteria comments.
Thank you. And in fact, I would love to take over. Oh, look, I can do that. Cool. I love it. I'm going to share my screen, which means I won't be able to see you all very well. But you should be able to see this. Now I'm going to keep this in non-presenter mode just so that I can kind of hop back and forth of things. So please bear with me. There was a question last meeting about the geographic area of kind of where the comments are coming from, which geographies. Now I should mention that, so we made this map and we covered, we kind of colored it or made it by economic development zone and or region, but I should note that only 10% of the comments really had any kind of geographic information. So I feel like this is a not as useful as we want it to be map, because so many of the comments, 90% of them, don't have geographic information or we can really code it into this. Nevertheless, here it is. Mid-Hudson was really the larger kind of area for these 283 comments. I want to kind of go back and also then talk through a little bit of the summaries of what we have coded. I also want to hear from you all about what we sent out our coded, kind of review. We've done a little bit of work on pulling out the indicators that have been recommended and pulling out the methodology recommendations as well. So that's what I really want to cover today with you. So please raise your hand. And Alana, I'll just ask that you kind of can, if you notice, just call people out or, not in a good way, and ask them to speak up if there's a raised hand or anything. So we have 3,124 comments again. And we kind of tried to find a way of categorizing them into different types, opinions, general comments, recommendations, and then non-DAC related comments that were added. We then further went and started looking at the types of recommendations that were provided, additional indicators, a need for ground truthing or providing information about certain regions that they think should be DACs, therefore we can use that as a ground truthed element piece of data. There were 47 methodological recommendations out there. A few recommendations on changing the language of, say, disadvantaged communities to something else, some climate policy recommendations, and then documentation ones. For the most part, the recommendations that were provided were a small subset of the larger comments, which were more largely either disagreement generally or agreement generally, thoughts and opinions, but not providing recommendations of what to do. So looking into these recommendation types, we wanted to dig in a little bit further about what's really something we can address. A lot of the comments we wanted to note whether they were immediately addressable. Some of those are just, providing more detail in the documentation and showing where something was included or reviewed and then why we chose not to include it. There's a little bit more public education that's needed. And then there are some different elements that we do want to start looking at and including. And those we pulled out into two separate sections. And this is kind of a new data that you haven't seen yet, but what we did was we pulled out those recommended indicators and we collapsed them down because, some people said the same thing several times. So in total, out of those 3,000 comments, there are about 66 individual indicators that were recommended for inclusion or review. And I think about 48 of those were ones that we had not, that are not currently in there. Some of them are, like asthma is already included in. So I want to go through that, but I want to give you a breakdown of what we did here. Of those 66 individual indicators, we looked at them and said, well, have we considered them previously or not? Or partially, is there like a bit of the concept of this indicator that we kind of looked at but didn't? So over half of them we did actually look at and think about previously and dismissed it or just let it go for some reason or other. 27 of them are not, and 5 of them were partial. Then we went in and started looking at the main different next steps that we need to do. And there's a couple, and I'll show you when you see the kind of recommended indicator what it means by saying review feasibility. In this case, we have to think about how the recommended data point could be even created or not. There's also this another level, which is assess what potential indicator could add. These 22 indicators have some conceptual overlap with things that we already have in our criteria. There are 17 that are no action because we've already either dismissed it with very good cause or we have it in there already. And then there are a couple that I think are pretty meaty ones, gentrification, other ones that we want to discuss with you at a later date. And there's one, which is diabetes, that we are actively identifying data for already, anticipating that one coming out from the final vote last year. Was it last year? A few months ago, whenever it was. Any questions so far? I will go over the Excel sheet, but I wanted to kind of give you through the idea of what we need to do next. Oh, Eddie, yeah, I see your hand.
Hey, Alex. Quick question. I'm just trying to get a sense of which categories might be maybe, I don't want to say the most troubling, but the ones we may need to, pay special attention to. What jumped out at me was the comments or whatever they were about the methodology. Could you speak a little bit to what you guys saw with the methodology comments? Were there any? I mean, at bottom, what I'm worried about is if any folks raised, serious methodological problems that cuts to the heart of a lot of what we're trying to do, depending on what that critique is. So did you guys have any sense of what the methodological comments were? Anything to worry about or be concerned about? Yeah.
It's very prescient of you. So I'll say one thing and then I'll answer your question. So for these indicators, if you all remember, we put this through the last set of indicators, a rubric that was like, what's the metric? How would we operationalize this? Is the data available? Is it by census tract and all that? That's our next step with those. Now going to the methodology question, Eddie, there were 52 kind of methodological recommendations here. And I coded them this way, and this is a pretty quick code. There are some that I think we should really discuss, and then most of the other ones are really just, there are questions that we had made, or at least answers that we had, decisions that we had gone throughout this whole process that we should review and talk through, but they were also legitimate decisions that we had to make. And methodologically speaking, other than someone disagreeing with that, there is no data to say whether one way is better than the other. So again, we'll flag those to discuss, but there are a couple parts that I want to talk through. So in the methodological recommendations, there's some people that say, well, you should include this indicator. We have that above. You should review how you calculated this indicator, or you should delete this indicator, like don't have it in your criteria. So those are 16 of those 52. There's this geographic component, which is really a lot of discussion about should you use block groups or census blocks or census tracts. And there's not a lot that we can do there, unfortunately. There's also some different conceptual areas about within this geographical one of, like, say, adding buffer zones or not. And I think that is something we should definitely discuss and see whether that's even possible or not. So those are in there. A calculation change or different calculation approach, 9 of those. Some of these were very vague of saying, don't do it this way. Some people were saying, don't do the ranked ordering. And, you know, I think that, again, this is one of those tough ones that we should, again, review every single one of these. And I'll show you the specific comments coming out of this, by the way. 8 were weighting. I found this particularly interesting because this is something that Amanda Dwelly and I went back and forth with, was how to weight these. We discussed it very openly with you. How do we weight these? There were several comments of saying, well, you should weight the population characteristics more than the kind of environmental characteristics. The reality is that we can't if we multiply them. And so we have to think about, is that multiplication the right way? Those kind of drill in a little bit about what, Eddie, to your point of that could change things a bit. So what I want to do is look at the specific comments, talk them through with you all, and then, you know, see what we see. And then there was some that said, you know, use standardized data across the state. There was another comment that said, don't use, you know, include data that isn't even standardized across the state, so you can have more specific, more hyperlocal data. Include data that's outside of New York. Include non-statewide data, again, kind of try to take in national data and things like that. So from those 3,000, we really boiled it down to about 50 indicators we need to look at. And then a few, I would say about 40 different methodological comments that I want to show you and talk to you through them. But I also, before I go there, we sent you last week the comments in our codes. But you know, there's something to be said about, it's really important that it's not just us like scientifically going and coding this. Like, were there any comments that really stood out to you? And I would really love to hear from you all if there was anything before I go through kind of our comment review. Is there anything that stood out that you want us to pay attention to? Abby?
This is Abby. Hi, Alex. I don't know if this is the right time to mention this or if it's going to come up later. So you can just say, you know, just wait. But ground truthing, the ones that specifically pointed to census tracts that people felt should have been included. I'm curious what overlap might have existed between kind of the characteristics of those specific census tracts and some of the other questions about indicators that should or should not be included, or the methodology, or, you know, and I think this might get to the weighting thing that you were just referring to. So again, if it's better to hold that for later.
No, that's a really good question. We haven't done the analysis of the characteristics, but I will say this, and this was true in the working group too, right? As we started to describe verbally what constituted a DAC, so much of that ground truthing came from the more population characteristics as opposed to more of the environmental characteristics. And so I saw that in the comments as well. And so my sense is that those are going to align. This is my sense. Again, we haven't done the analysis where we're kind of looking at the correlates across those that are ground truthed. What I'd like to do is input those ground truth census tracts or regions, kind of color code them. So, you know, they come from the comments. Here are the ground truth versions that we had before. Start looking at the overlap of them, and then kind of look at, as you say, the characteristics underneath that.
Alex?
Yep.
Just a quick, just one I line through that I noticed in some of the comments when, and I think it's along the lines of what you're just mentioning, some comments that pressed for less of consideration or waiting for environmental or climate risks. And it read to me at times, some of the comments were almost attempting to try to drive this tool to be more precise in terms of the broader racial justice goals that we may have as New Yorkers or society, whatever, and which you know, obviously that's a huge need that we would always support, but it concerned me a little bit because it made me think that there were folks who weren't understanding the concept of environmental justice or climate justice, that it's this nexus. And in other words, this tool is not meant to identify all instances of historical racism, discrimination, and its impacts. It's targeting these specific ways that exclusivity, inequity, racism is played out in New York. So I guess what I'm wondering is, did that jump out at you, or did I just kind of maybe I just read a wrong batch at the wrong time, and that's what jumped out at me. But it just felt like there were people trying to make this tool do more than legislatively it was intended to do, which you know, I wish we could do more, but that was one of the through lines that jumped out at me.
Yeah, I think that I would say that jumped out at me as a very natural kind of, again, because of that kind of that element where when we start thinking about disadvantaged communities, where you think about the socioeconomic kind of elements of it and the population characteristics. And so those really jump out. There were also comments that were saying, well, you shouldn't include race, or you should include race, and support for both of those different claims and thoughts about it. There were a lot of comments about, you know, including or boosting economic and population characteristics, and then a few that were saying, well, you need to actually look at some of the environmental indicators more too. There was a balance. I think one of the hardest things about public comments is that I've been trying to treat this less as a, you know, the number of counts of specific recommendations, like say 10 people said or recommended X and one person recommended Y, and try to take to the spirit of the law and also the science behind the recommendation. So if one person said something that was something we missed and didn't consider, but it is scientifically a very valid idea and thought, we need to explore that, even if it was just one person as opposed to 100 people saying this other thing. And it's such a balance, right? But comments to me are partially a democratic process, but also like a scientific process where some people who know a lot about one thing can provide or one person who knows a lot about one thing can provide a very thoughtful comment about one thing, and we need to consider that as well. So I've been trying to avoid giving you like, and 20 people said this exact thing here. It's more of like, here are the next steps of what we need to do. So you will see in the indicator document, which by the way, we'll be able to send out after this meeting. We don't have counts of the number of people that recommended the inclusion of asthma or diabetes. We just have, those were the recommendations. We can add that in, by the way, if you're curious about it, but I don't want that to overweight everything else. Happy to chat through that if other people disagree or want to consider that. Any other thoughts about the comments? I'm going to go for another awkward pause here, but I'd love to hear what jumped out at you. Okay, awkward time done. Let me show you the Excel sheet where we have taken all of the compiled comments and taken the indicators, and we have a sheet for indicator recommendations. We also have a sheet for methodological recommendations. We're still going through these. I also created a couple other sheets so that we could remember things, because it was a long time ago when we looked at these 162 different indicators, you know, like a year and a bit ago, to try to understand how we can include them or not. And then we went through that whole rubric to decide, and then look at kind of the initial priority, et cetera. And then finally, we have the final indicator list that was included in the criteria. So I wanted all of this to be in one spot so that we can all look at it together. I'm going to go back here. This is the indicators that were recommended, or at least concepts of indicators that were recommended from the comments. One was PIJA, which PIJA is used as a comparative tool. A lot of the information in PIJA is already included in the criteria, so there's really no action that we can take from that. But we did go.
A little bit,
Oh,
please?
yeah.
Thank you.
How's that? Make that.
Perfect, thanks.
Yeah. So one thing I should note here, we've got the indicator. I went and did a kind of a rough pillar, but we don't have the different factors and all the different things that we did before. I did create this action column of, okay, well, this is the action we should take. And again, I showed you the table of those. And then we provided a few comments here about what we think is here or not, whether it's included already or partially. And then we have one more column here, which was, did we consider it before? And should we consider it again type thing. But I wanted to make note of the things of, oh yes, we thought of that, but we, for some reason, didn't take it into account. So going through the environmental pollution and hazards pillar, yeah.
I'm so sorry. It's just that I'm I'm looking at this and it's making me ask a question, right? Like number 7, proximity to waste transfer stations. Am I reading this right? It says under comment, industrial areas included already, not included, and consider yes. The way I read that is that we didn't include proximity to waste transfer stations. That doesn't sound like this crowd. So like, am I reading this thing wrong, or what's going on here?
Yeah, so one thing here is like included, and one of the things I want to say here, not included as just like specifically said by this recommendation in the words. So one of the things here on this comment is, yes, we already have industrial areas that are included. We already have a lot of proximity stuff. So bear with me as I flip to another one. This is kind of hard to do because there's like 3 different data sets that we have to consider and think through here. But if we start looking at the exposures, we've got a lot of this already in here, right? And so it might not be exactly as described in the indicator. So that's part of the reason why. this says not included when it really is partially included, or at least considered in some way. Make sense, Eddie? Más o menos.
Yeah, I would have been shocked if we somehow missed waste transfer stations, and I certainly saw the categories. So I think we're
Yeah.
good on that category. Keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, trust me. Like I read these, I'm like, but didn't we? And then I was like, oh yes, but it's just some people had very specific things. We got a lot of rail yard and rail track ones, and we have that in there. It's just not as the way, the vehicle miles traveled. We actually do have related indicators. So, maybe the better way of categorizing this is to say where like related indicators are included. But I also wanted us not to totally, in the spirit of really trying to take every single comment and see what we can do. I don't want to dismiss anything without showing everything to you. The no action ones really are like, really, there's very good reason why I would say no action. Otherwise, I'm erring toward reviewing it, discussing with you, thinking through, is there anything we did miss? Because we have a lot of this in here, right? But we don't have exact pesticide use in here. So we considered some of it, but not all of it. Does that make any sense? It's like I'm trying to make sure that we stay close to the spirit of transparency and really getting to what the commenter said and wanted. Okay, I'm going to keep going. Please do speak up, though. I can't see everyone. Okay, asthma we already have. Zoning practices, some of these are just not easy to actually anticipate what this is, but to me, this probably is the industrial areas, again, that we've included. Electromagnetic fields, we have a lot of this, but there really is very little data showing health impacts from radio waves. So we're going to not take action on that. Heat-related in illnesses, we already have several indicators that cross around to this. To actually do what they're recommending here, we would have to do a lot of geocoding and assessment data. So something to think about, but I don't think there's any immediate action.
Yeah, Alex,
And then the
it's
other
not
one-
only that, but it's also that at a census tract level, the data, when, there's not enough numbers to make a stable count. And that's really, a recognized issue that you can't, there are some ICD-9 codes, which is how we identify heat-related illness, that can be queried in data. And we know there's also heat-related illnesses that may manifest as a heart attack or a cardiovascular disease, but it's hard to, we can't tease out which specific ones are heat-related unless there's that code there. So just pulling the code, the records that have that code, we don't have the counts at the census tract level. That was more the issue.
That's good to know. And, like, so in this case, the heat-related indicator, we did consider it. Yeah. And again, I think one of these is, this is a LUMS first, like, brush through. We haven't had the agencies come through and look through and say like, oh, well, we did do that, or, oh, this really couldn't be done with the data we have. We'd have to do this, that, and the other. So we're all kind of running fast on through this. Potential pollution exposure, again, no action. We do have a lot of those in there. Water and air quality monitoring, again, we have those in there. Access to potable water. There's no data that we have within the census that we can pull from this, and I think it would be pretty tough. But that's, again, why we're erring on the side of tagging these for reviewing the feasibility of what we could include, what we couldn't include. Competitive power ventures, say fracking, illegal dumping, lead and water in schools, lead and water in service lines, PFAs, poor drinking water, illegal dumping and insufficient sanitation, illegal truck parking, structure of fires, and reincorporating primary heating fuel as a component in those areas. So those were the ones within the first pillar that were recommended to us. Going on now to the second pillar, diabetes, recommendation of quantifying diabetes, and we are actively working on that. And then these assess what indicators or could and should add, these are the ones I think that are already correlated pretty highly. So we need to think through whether we already capture, the variability in this, the information that we could get from this indicator or not, whether we'd include it or not. So just going to go through again: abandoned buildings, affordable housing, child poverty, housing structures with 10 or more units, housing quality and safety, low life expectancy, people under 18, percent of houses with fewer rooms than people, population density, free and reduced lunch, food stamps. And then I've got 3 here that I want to review and discuss and have larger conversations with you all about, because I think these are going to be big, meaty discussions. The first one is we got quite a few people commenting about the use of area median income versus the, Tyler, help me out, state median income, state something income.
Yep, flipped around.
Okay. Median state income? Is that where you flip around?
State median income, I think they were putting forth area median income.
Okay, yeah. So we're going to just put state median income, median state in here. But I do want to have this discussion because it did pop up quite a few comments, and I think it's worthy of discussion. Gentrification is something we had all discussed, and I think is, again, something that will require quite a lot of calculation and understanding of how to measure gentrification, and then also measure gentrification across time. And then following quickly up to that is the unintended policy vulnerabilities. Like what is this going to have? And this recommendation had some list of different elements. So I want to, in a separate meeting, discuss those and really have a meaty discussion with you all on those. I feel like I'm going through this real fast, so if you guys have questions, please stop me. Okay, cost of living, energy burden. These are no action because we pretty much have these already in here. We've got gender identity, which actually I think statistically, aside from not having really good consistent data, is not something that I think we could geographically describe with any kind of I don't think it's going to inform the DAC much, statistically speaking. Home prices already include households without vehicles, indigenous populations, population in poverty and disabled, and vacancy rates are all included or had been dismissed because of data availability.
I have a question on energy burden. Hi, it's Jill. I'm just wondering at what point are we updating the data? Like, I know that energy burden probably shifted quite a bit this heating season with increased fuel costs. So I'm wondering where we stand with that.
Yeah, it's how we have operationalized those data, and we won't have updated increased, the actual energy burden for another year or two. That will be informative over and above what we have. That larger question that you're asking, though, is when do we refresh the data? How often? And what data sources are we using? All of that. That is a big methodological concern I have. It wasn't really brought up in the comments, but it is something that I think we need to talk through. So I'm going to write it down because it's.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have
really important.
Another question. If you scroll up a little bit, you talked about reincorporating primary heating fuel. What does that mean?
At some point, there it is. We had considered primary heating fuel as an indicator to include, and then we dismissed it because we already had a bunch of other things in there, and it wasn't really informing much. So someone had recommended rethinking about it. Thank you for the reminder about the updating indicator data conversation, because that's another big meaty one that we need to discuss. Okay. The ones that we want to review the feasibility of are concentration of heat vulnerable jobs, EMS disabled population. This seems to me like a intersection between those that the percent of people with disabilities that only are getting health related care through emergency medical response. So we can look at that. EN zone, which is kind of something we already are thinking about and have in there as far as other indicators, but we want to look at it. High tax aid. I'm not quite sure what this commenter was getting at, so I want to look at the comment a little bit as well and review it. Something, at least in Portland, Oregon, where I live, this is a big one, and yet the data are really bad. And this is some the issue we had last time with this one, but recommendation of looking into the proportion of houseless and unsheltered people and seeing whether we can include that. So we need to review the feasibility of that. Interesting comment here about incorporating data that shows the infrastructure that serves multiple communities and trying to look into that. So I want to review that. Percentage of public assistance cases. I have a feeling this is going to overlap with a lot of other areas. Retain food access. So with food deserts, something that we want to think about. And then school closures, and then percent of debt service to total revenues. So those were the second pillar. Third pillar, we only got a few here with climate change. Porous ground surfaces. We have flooding indicators in there, which may actually be enough to cover this, but we should look at it. Vehicle access was something we looked at and had dismissed, or at least tried to get at with a different indicator. So we're going to look and see whether there's anything here that can add to what we already have. This one, the considered and prior to work, the distance to grocery stores and farmers markets was another one that we had considered. There's not really much we can do there. Vegetation, tree canopy, and green space, we have this already. And then rainfall, we'll review. Questions or thoughts on this? Okay, Eddie, prepare yourself. We're going to go to the methodological recommendations.
I think Eddie jumped off.
Oh, bummer. Can
That's
you
okay, we're recording it, we'll save it for him.
Sounds good. And I'm going to go through these much faster just as a time check. We've got 30 minutes left, right, Alana?
Yep.
Okay. I want to do a little bit more thinking about the different recommendations from the comments here, but I wanted to give a general sense of what they looked like, where they were. So I'm just going to order these so that you see all the ones in different batches. Consider sliding scale over percentiles. This was something we considered and dismissed, but we can reconsider it. Thresholds for a track to be considered that has a significant portion of eligible households. This is the idea that, say, you have the individual criteria. If there is a large proportion that in a certain track that meet that eligibility criteria, then they should become a DAC. This is the recommendation of limiting included tracks, so reducing the proportion that we allow in, including NYCHA housing, even in non-DACs. Make the formulas simpler, make the tool simpler, review the scoring methodology, have separate qualification of indigenous lands, which we actually do, use categorical thresholds as well as geographic ones, which we do in part. We have low income as one. And then these are kind of in the change review or delete the indicators, change landfill indicator, changed 60% AMI, discontinue agricultural land use, discontinue benzene, heat-related illness, which is, again, we have that on the other side. Reassess the data that sets that reflect diesel fuel, reevaluate the areas where there could be double counting. This is a really good comment of we should check on the on the overlap and the cross correlation. Reevaluate the separation of race variables. This is the concept of doing kind of a larger people of color versus what we have done, which is separating out race a little bit more granularly. Remove the race indicator, review driving times to homes built, inland flooding, landfill methodology, rainfall methodology, vacancy rates and flooding variables, review those, review or switch back to AMI again, and then use both AMI and SMI. There are some interesting ones like this one, which is include impacts of burdens outside of New York. And then there were some geographic elements. So buffer areas, buffer environmental hazards, then check the town of Dover, check Watkins Glen, check flexibility of blocks between blocks and tracks, or create flexibility so that we can use one or the other or both, expand the pollution, flexibility in boundaries, households, rural areas eligible to block level, proximity of burdens, quantity of birds across geographic borders, and etc. So these are the ones that are most geographic ones. But I want to go down to these, the weighting ones, because these I think are going to be really, they're trying to get at that conceptualization that some indicators or concepts, and particularly prevalent were the socioeconomic concepts here, was multiplying certain indicators. So multiply the indicator for limited English proficiency or premature deaths, population density, vehicle miles traveled, increase overall the weights on population vulnerability, which we cannot again do because we're multiplying. So we'll have to reassess that. Review the weight of agricultural variables, weight economic indicators higher, and weight old homes and race higher. So again, conflicting comments as well. So any thoughts here? Yeah, Abby?
Alex, I'm just curious, when people suggested reviewing something, did they typically, I don't know, that seems vague. Was there a alternative strategy proposed in those cases? I mean, I guess these aren't all individual comments, right? These are like within specific comments, there may have been 4 of these.
Yeah, so one person could have had 10 of these different recommendations, or, you know, this could have been just one thing with multiple sentences around it. And this is our summary.
So what do you do with those ones that are, you know, review X?
Well, we review it. And I think what we do is you know, I think also, again, with my role of being the balanced one, taking in the comments and trying to balance and understand, okay, well, if they want rural representation, my sense is that we need to review that and discuss rural versus urban representation and how we did that. What that all ensues also, given the history of what we discussed, is that individual criteria versus the geographic criteria. So to me, it's all of those things.
Okay.
At least if I want to do this in a very rigorous way, which I do.
Thank you for that, Alex.
Always. So.
Yeah, Alex, sorry, it's
Yep.
Chris Concerta. So speaking of rigor, I guess I'm wondering, can you remind us, like, do we have an easy way to, you know, just swap out, like, thinking of the methodological comments that involve indicators, like, do we have I don't want to say an easy way, but is there a way that we can just remove an indicator from like the methodology, just to kind of get a sensitivity analysis? Like, how much does that shift to the, you know, the criteria?
Yeah.
I suppose that there's going to be, I mean, there's a lot, right, of comparative analysis that the group is going to have to do, but I guess I'm wondering, like, even getting us to that point, are we set up to do that right now?
We set that up for the draft criteria as kind of the elements. So we're going to resurrect some of those Tableau kind of workbooks and worksheets and work together through trying to do that and do a sensitivity analysis. But before we even do that, I think we need to take the step of saying, well, is this really even an indicator? So those that are recommended being added, is it even a good indicator? So going through that rubric again and downloading the data and looking at the correlations so that we're not trying to download a bunch of data that really isn't good. Because we did do a lot of homework last time around, and we still have a lot of those bits of information that I don't think came through for a lot of the commenters in the myriads of explanations and worksheets that we had. So step one, rubric. Step two is also start looking at like toggling off. Well, if we took out some of the recommended things that are already in there, what does that do? Where do we lose things? And the comparison with the ground truthing. So yes, we can do it. Going to take a little bit of resurrection to do it, but we'll get it in there and updated.
Great. Thank you.
Any other comments or spots?
So this is Chris again. I guess in terms of process, right? So if you look at the list of indicators and methodological comments, so the kind of initial screen that you guys did was, kind of break it down by category, like do nothing, or, we've addressed it already. So I guess should working group members kind of focus on, like, what do we want the focus to be for the next meeting? Like, is it like just making sure everybody agrees with those, those assessments that, the first screen that you did, Alex, and then maybe do a little bit more of a deeper dive into, the comments that are most, I guess important to them, or at least what they think is most important?
Yeah, to me, I think especially if we want to get this done by February, what we need is to run in parallel on multiple fronts. So the first thing I want to do is get this new Excel sheet out to the working group, and I'm going to ask that each of you review the indicators. This includes agency staff to also comment on feasibility for anything that is new that we haven't considered before, how we could operationalize that. But I would like to ask each working group member to take a look at this now very pared down, set of indicators and set of methodological recommendations, add any comments of whether they think this is very important or not. And then we can take that in and start working on that. We're also in parallel going to look through the indicator list that we have from these comments and start putting them through the rubric. I will need agency staff to help operationalize some of those that we need to consider for the rubric. So again, that will need to happen in parallel. And then from there, what I'd like to do is see how far we can get before the next one on applying the rubric, looking at correlations for the indicators, just like last year when we looked at the correlations across the indicators, looking at the comments. So I'm going to ask working group members to get me that workbook, those comments before the working group, like 2 weeks before, so that then I can do this. And we will write this all down. It's just all hitting so fast. And to make that February kind of goal of ours, I'm going to be asking a lot of the working group, but I will promise to try to make it as easy as possible, like refining down this comment sheet so that it's not as big as the 2,000, 3,000 comments. So there you go, Chris. Quite the response to you there.
I'm speechless. No, thank you.
So Alex, hi, it's Alana. As I see it, we should, the goal will be to sort of create a list of deliverables for the Climate Justice Working Group to have for our next 3 meetings. And we might just, the goal will be to sort of like parse these out so we know exactly what we're talking about, so we can make sure that we're on track for
Yes, and starting to think about this in more detail, especially last night when I was looking at it, I was like, okay, if we're going to do this, then we really need to work in parallel. So I think what I'd like to do is have basically kind of a running list of things that are out to the working group that we need comments by, the deadlines of them, and then also what we're working on. So everyone knows where we stand. So it's going to be a bit more management on that side in comparison to last year.
Abby has her hand up. Oh, you're still muted, Abby.
Thanks. So just briefly, Alex, since we are, compressed timeline, I'm wondering the 3 areas you said you thought would take, I think it was 3, kind of more in-depth conversation. Gentrification was one. I can't remember what the other 2 were. Can you give us, I don't know, maybe just a little teaser for what our options might be in those 2 areas?
Yeah, so with exception to the area median income, median state income, state median income, all that, with exception of that one, which we do need to talk about, the idea of gentrification and the idea of policy implications, I do not view those as something that we need to fix by February or figure out by February, because they cannot be in any way, shape, or form. And so I think that that's one of those, we take the long view and make sure we answer it right. But I do want to have those conversations so that they're like in public, everyone can see what we're talking about and thinking about as far as the concept of gentrification and how we're going to operationalize that. It just might not happen immediately. It is part of the comments though, so it's really important.
Thank you. That is helpful to know. Because that seemed like a lot to try to do by February. Chris, I think this is kind of a question for you. The state median income versus area median income. I believe the reason we made that choice, can you remind me if I'm correct about this, is basically that it is what is already being used for programs, so it was going to be the most implementable. Is that right?
Yeah, so I think there are actually 2 pieces to that, and so Alex might need to weigh in a little bit more, but so in the actual criteria, in the composite, there is indicators of like community level income. So I think we use like HUD, LM, I might be forgetting, but it was like HUD, LMI, census tracts. And then on top of that, which I think are area median income. And then on top of that, we included, for accounting purposes, like low income households. And then for that, we used state median income because that is the primary way that in programs that are administered are like identifying participants and eligible clients. And so that data already exists. If we were to have to figure out how to track at the area median income level, that's a whole host of additional, data collection we'd have to do from participants that are, kind of in these programs. So I think that was the consideration, Abby. Yeah, yeah, you summed it up easily. It's more implementable if it's state median income.
For the individual criteria.
For the individual criteria.
And I will say that the comments were not clear on whether it was the individual criteria or the larger criteria as a whole. So what we have already are less than 80% area median income. We have also 100%, less than 100% federal poverty line. And then we also have the unemployment rate. And those are all in the geographic criteria. And then overlaid on that is the state median income individual criteria. So it's almost like we are already doing both. And again, I just want everyone, or at least as large a group as possible, to weigh in and be okay with it, because it was quite the discussion before. Having that discussion again, kind of going a go, no go, make a decision and move on, I think is going to be pretty important for that one. There's nothing else for us to explore we can show you the data again that we have, but there's not much else that we need to, there's not much more data we can give you. At least for that one. Just you wait though. So there you have it. I think shortly after this, I am going to work with Alana to get you this Excel sheet that we just finished coding bits of it last night. So I would love to get your thoughts and comments on it. I'll put a little column to say, you know, working group comments and ask you all to fill that out. We'll put it on the SharePoint site. And then also I'll work with Alana to create kind of a list of here's what we need you all to do for certain times, and here's what we're going to be working on, and create a document that's kind of a working to-do task list document in the SharePoint so everyone has access to that as well. Overall, I know Eddie's not here, but generally speaking, methodologically speaking, I didn't see anything that made me really rethink the approach we had. And that's not to say I'm not very open to it. I think there are a couple different components that we have to discuss, and that's the weighting ones I think will be the most important to discuss. Okay, I'm going to hand it back to you, Lana.
All right, thanks, Alex. Well, we don't have the presentation up, but it's just, oh, well, here it comes. Next steps. Thank you, Emma. So we've had a lot to think about. Obviously, one of the biggest next steps that we're going to do is to make sure that we are organized for our next few meetings, because we are going to move very quickly on this. We obviously want to make sure, one of the first next steps I'm going to do is make sure that we close the loop on some of our outstanding issues from our last meeting. So we'll make sure that the meetings on the Acoma Pro are set up and organized. So like I said, you should be receiving a doodle poll from our AIR team on that, just to make sure that everybody is set up, everybody has their training and their account, and you have the ability to monitor the air monitoring program and that data. Our next step will be to meet internally to discuss the organization of the next few meetings, just to make sure that we have that outline and we have that information for all of you, so you're not just sort of flying blind. We are going to create that list of deliverables for our next 3 meetings and work out exactly what those deadlines are going to look like. And all that will be uploaded to the SharePoint, and also I'll send that to you all in an email. The goal will be to try to have that to all of you by the end of the week. Does anybody have any questions or comments or concerns? Is there anything outstanding that anybody wants to bring up or that I might have missed? Sonal, are you trying to?
Yeah, is there anything, maybe you did this at the top of the hour, but for this economy-wide meeting tomorrow, is there anything that's worth sort of bringing up here just to preempt the conversation at all?
Jill, is there anybody who has anything that they wanted to bring up?
Did you say Jill?
Yes, I did say Jill. Jill, Abby, anyone does anybody have anything that they would like to bring up?
I don't have anything. I'm just, was Sonal's question answered? Sorry. Did I miss that?
Oh, no. That was more about, for folks who participated in the last meeting, is there anything that we wanted to discuss here in anticipation of tomorrow's meeting?
Maybe we could review expectations for tomorrow and just bring to light some of the resources that were shared that we're expected to discuss tomorrow, since we have 10 minutes.
Sure. So I sent folks the presentation materials that were presented to the Climate Action Council, as well as the, not necessarily red line, but the draft Clean Transportation Standard. That information is available to Climate Justice Working Group members for the discussion tomorrow as well. So has anybody had an opportunity to take a look at that in anticipation? Is there anything that you want to just talk about quickly before we discuss that tomorrow? Is there anything else or additional that you think is missing, or any additional information you would like in anticipation of the meeting?
I have not got, sorry,
Oh,
go ahead. Can you take the slide down so that we could see each other, please?
And then Jill, did you have something you wanted to say?
Nope, just I was going to ask to take the slide down, and that I didn't get a chance to look at the materials because I was reviewing the materials for this meeting. So
Right.
I will by tomorrow, hopefully.
Okay, thanks.
And I unfortunately won't be at the meeting tomorrow, but one question I asked at our last meeting, just via the chat, I think it was via the chat anyhow, so probably wasn't even in the notes or anything, but was about, is there an analysis that the state agencies have done of the CCIA that we could review? Because I think, you know, given that a lot of the I think tensions around the various different economy-wide approaches, for me anyhow, it would be helpful to know what the limitations from the state agency's perspective of the CCIA is, to then understand why a different approach is required. So does that analysis exist, and is it something we could have access to?
I don't have that information, but I can definitely reach out to our folks in CAC staff and see if we can get that.
That'd be great. Thank you.
If it exists, and if we can get that.
And I guess if it doesn't exist, it would be great if it could exist.
Why? Anything else? Any other materials that we would like to see in anticipation of tomorrow's meeting? Okay. Are there any concerns going into tomorrow's meeting? Okay. Are there any other specific topics you want to bring up on either the economy-wide or the Clean Transportation Standard, just to, you know, that you want to make sure get discussed tomorrow? Especially Abby, I know that you said you won't be able to be at the meetings, or anything specific you want to, aside from that, you want to make sure that definitely gets brought up? I want to make sure that you, even though you're not there, make sure that your thoughts are represented.
No, I think, you know, assuming other working group members are going to be there, I have full confidence that the important issues will be raised.
Oh, I can't tell if your hand is up.
No, I'm good. And I'm sorry, you know, the one that I brought up the whole thing, but I didn't have anything prepared to say. So
Oh, no, that's
this all sounds great.
all right. Okay, so as I said before, we're going to make sure that we get that list of deliverables. I'm going to reach out to CAC staff to see if we have that CCIA analysis that members can review in anticipation of tomorrow. And we will look to make sure items are loaded on the SharePoint page for people to review in anticipation of our next few meetings. Is there anything that I've forgotten or any additional next steps you want me to consider? No? Good? All right, well, with that being said, thank you everyone for joining us. I know you guys are all very busy. We are looking forward to a very robust schedule in order to try to move towards to our February voting date. So please respond to polls that will be coming out relatively soon. Our next meeting is scheduled for November 30th at the same time in the same locations. For folks who are not going to be available for meetings, we will offer the opportunity to have reviews with Illume if you need them. Always feel free to reach out to me and to reach out to any of the technical staff and to reach out directly to Alex. I'm sure she definitely wants to hear from you. I see Shannon is on. I'm sure Shannon wants to hear from folks as well. If you need any additional information or to go over any of the indicators or any of the information that you're seeing or that ends up on SharePoint. Okay, well, with that being said, I'm going to bring this meeting to a close. Please, with regards to the meeting on the 30th, if you haven't let me know already, just please let me know if you're going to be present at the in-person locations by tomorrow. It's helpful to know for staff so we can make sure that we have people there to start the meetings for everybody, and those areas can be accessible to the public. All right, so we'll continue to move forward with our analysis. Like I said, very robust schedule. If need be, we can pull together some additional quick meetings for everyone. They can be one-on-one to, however we want to work that. Okay, thanks everyone, and we will see folks on the 30th, the 7th, and the 14th. And then I will send out the survey within the next week to ascertain what our meetings in 2023 will look like. So please keep an eye out for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see you again.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Thanks, Alana.